Welcome in, everybody, to the Pitch Podcast. My name is Jim Cross. I am joined now, Daniel. I just did an episode without you. I missed you. Daniel Ball, how are we doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back. Obviously, starting the week on a really positive note. We get to talk football,
Yeah.
NFL right around the corner. So let's get into this.
Yeah, I mean, before we introduce our host, though, you know how it is. Got to plug the sponsors. Got to start Chinook Seedery, 9 Flavors, Mild to Wild, the best sunflower seeds in the game. Daniel, I will tell you a secret on air. Can't give too many details, but our other sponsor, Old Dominic, reached out. Chinook, they're going to be partnering together. Be on the lookout. Might be something you're into. Little sunflower seed bourbon. So stay tuned. And then, of course,
small batch action.
Small batch action. And then, of course, Jesus won apparel, John 16:33, empowering men and women to be bold in their faith. Daniel, have you watched the Little League World Series at all?
I've been watching as much as I can with two little girls that'll allow me to watch baseball and not dance. But yeah, I've been checking it out.
Well, I bring that up because, look, we got a team. I was able to outfit them from Phoenix City, Alabama. They said, look, we haven't been to the College World Series in 29 years, but this is the year we're going to make a run. We want the shirts. We want to be bold. We want to proclaim it on ESPN. Check this out. So they did it. They have set out to do what they said they were going to do. They have punched their ticket. They are heading to the Little League World Series. So shout out to the team in Phoenix City. They'll be playing Wednesday, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern. Make sure, Daniel, if you get a chance, check them out.
Yeah, I'll have to definitely tune in to watch them for sure. If I make a point to watch any game, I'm going to check them out. I love Little League World Series just because. And it's not that watching adults play the sport that you love isn't fun, but like you can see there's just a different kind of joy. It's almost like this innocence joy where winning is good, but like just being able to be on a stage and like it's just different. It hits different, it looks different, and it's always fun to get a chance to check those guys out. And I'm glad that Little League World Series is a thing that allows, those kids to go out there and live like a big league life for a week or two while they're there.
Well, speaking of big league and speaking about things that bring me joy, football season, guys who've donned the black and gold. And so we got a guest tonight, Luke McCown. How we doing tonight, brother?
What's going on, guys? I appreciate y'all having me on.
Absolutely. Daniel, I don't know if I even gave you the story of how it came to be, but it was a Jesus One connection. And then the opportunity arose. I said, hey, Luke, man, gotta get your story. I mean, when you look at his storied career, the different places he played, the guys he played with, then, of course, a family man just like me and you now, I feel like this was a story we needed to dive into.
Yeah, it's always fun when we can talk football, but it's always fun when we can share the story and glorify God while we're doing it, man. It's a blessing, Luke, man. I appreciate you coming on, but we gotta start from the beginning. Let's get to know you a little bit. Where's home for you? Where are you from?
Yeah, so I'm a small town East Texas boy. Texas is one of those states where you identify based on the region. It's big enough. You're not just from Texas, but you have to be from East Texas. And so I'm a small town East Texas kid. We like to call it Beast Texas. About 30 minutes south of Tyler, Texas, where Earl Campbell and those guys came from, and so we're right in the hub of big time Texas high school football. Grew up, I saw it, everybody thinks since my family was so heavy into sports. My brothers, Randy played quarterback at Texas A&M. Josh played 18 years in the NFL. Now coaching with the Vikings, I played, and that my dad that was a coach. Now he coached us through Little League and little league baseball, basketball, stuff like that. But he's a sawmiller, so we grew up around a sawmill business, And but we love sports. We love to compete. Always raised to, hey, if you're going to do it, we're not just going to do it for fun. Like, I hope you have fun, but if you're going to commit to doing something, we're going to do it to try and be the best at it. And we believe that that's the way that we best use what God's given us in our bodies, and the breath in our lungs, and the aptitude in our minds, to go and to try and be the best at whatever we're attempting. So, born and raised that way, born and raised in the church, small town Baptist church, as you can imagine. Not perfect, but man, gospel centered, and yeah, that's where it all began.
So that blue collar work ethic, man. That
Yeah.
East Texas, Beach Texas, and it shows. I mean, obviously, growing up with older brothers, Randy and Josh, and we know what the story is. We know the background, but I can't ever picture this, and Jim can't either. But growing up, living in a house with that much testosterone, but also that much competitive nature, tell me a little bit about how competitive it was in the house, and was there fighting? Was there just I just feel like it is romper room all day long.
All day long. I mean, it was, our afternoons coming home from school, or summer times, because we're not very far apart. Randy's about 2.5 years older than Josh. Josh is 2 years older than me. I'm only 2 years older than my sister, so we're all spaced pretty evenly, and so the competition was real. Driveway basketball games were heated from the get-go, and even before then. I can remember we were talking about the Cowboys earlier, and so I can remember, get home from church, and mom and dad, they got the Cowboys game on, and we finished lunch, and we're sitting there, and halftime of the Cowboys game, it's like, all right, Dad's taking his three boys, and we're out in the front yard, and it's got the old Hutch helmets. Y'all guys remember the old plastic Hutch helmets, like the Hutch helmet, and the shoulder pads that kind of flap, all look like wings on a bird, and we're out there playing and getting after it, and so that's that was fun for us. That was kind of the beginning of this is what it means to enjoy sport, and then learn how to compete. And it was never like, hey, take it easy on the little guy over there, take it easy on little brother. It was no holds barred, like throw him up against a tree, or wrestling to the ground, whatever it was. But Dad, Dad had his intention was to build men, and to build tough men, guys that could handle things. I mean, and years later, I come to find out, I think it was Teddy Roosevelt that said, man, football is something that kids need if they're not going to, if we're not going to be a military country in the aspect that we don't automatically make you enroll in the military. Well, it's the closest thing to military development is the game of football. It's getting knocked down. It's teamwork. It's camaraderie. It's all of those things. It's formation. It's schematics. It's all the things that we admire our military guys for. And so that was kind of my first introduction to, man, there's a lot of lessons that you can learn from playing the game of football, and learning those early. And so that was Dad's intention the whole way. I'm like, at the very least, I'm going to teach you guys how to be tough, and how to not cry over a jammed finger or a twisted ankle. Like, there's things in life that you're going to go through apart from sport that are going to be tough. You can't lay there and cry about it. You got to get up and keep moving. And so that was the beginning of it, man. And it was competition all the time. It was, man, who's better than who, and whose team was better than who. And my sophomore class could beat your sophomore class, and nonstop, all the time. And for me, that ended up shaping who I was, because Randy was a Dave Campbell's magazine in Texas, a big, football magazine, was a super team quarterback for 4A that year. Randy had was highly recruited. Started 3 years in high school, highly recruited as a basketball player. and then Josh goes, and Josh only starts as a senior in high school, only plays 1 year, but is highly recruited and has a great year there. And recruiting was different back then than it is now, and so everybody, I assume, that thought that I was going to feel some type of pressure that I had to be, I had to follow in their footsteps. It's not that I had to; I wanted to. When I looked at them, there was never a sense of, man, I got to live up to this name that they've created for me. No, I wanted to. As a matter of fact, when I looked at them, I said, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. And matter of fact, I can do it better. And so it was just one of those things where you grow up kind of going, it was competition, but I looked up to my brothers in the sense of they set a bar for me to achieve and try to excel above. And I was exceedingly blessed by the life that I had growing up, the lessons that I learned through sport, the things that my parents made me do sometimes, for the lessons that it taught me.
Daniel, that's no surprise to us, right? I mean, 900 plus athletes over 6 years we've had on the show. We've always talked about the younger sibling, and more times than not, it's because they were chasing the older one. A lot of times they played against older kids. It always made them better for it.
Yep.
Playing up in competition, trying to just you. It's nice because you get a glimpse of the next step and what you have to do to get to the next step. So you're constantly doing the things to get you to the next step because they're older and they're there and they're doing it. And obviously you guys are competitive and you want to beat them. You're not using being the younger sibling as the excuse. You're like, no, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to beat you. I don't care what we're doing.
Yeah. It was never okay to lose. Like that's why most of our driveway basketball games ended in fist fights. Like it just wasn't okay to lose. And I'm not just gonna walk off the going, oh, you beat me this time. That's okay. No, it wasn't. It's never okay.
I've always thought the most interesting dinner table, Daniel, when they've talked about it so many times on the NFL Thanksgiving, the Harbaugh's table, right? Because when they play each other, who's got the bragging rights for the next go around? And I mean, it's got to be miserable when you're on the losing side.
Oh yeah, awful, because it never ends. to this day, we remember, playing golf a couple of weeks ago when Josh was in town. I mean, it's just, you're always trying to win, always trying to compete, but that's what keeps it lively and fun. And it's all in good fun. And nobody's, we're not trying to put each other down, but it's just fun.
Yeah. Well, you clearly had a lot of fun, but you were also very, very talented. You had a lot of options for college, but inevitably you choose Louisiana Tech.
Yeah.
So what made Louisiana Tech the destination?
Yeah. Listen, I mean, if I'd had a nickel for every time somebody asked me that question, like, my final list, I was highly recruited, largely in part because of what my brothers did before me. And I was talented. I could play, but I had a name. And so I was out there. So, I mean, you name it, Florida State, Texas, Miami, Oklahoma, like all the ones back in the late 90s, early 2000s that were the guys that, before the Alabama was the Alabama, before Georgia was like, and so I had all of those. And my final list came down to Oklahoma and Louisiana Tech, and it sounds like kind of crazy, but this is now you got to remember I had Randy who went to Texas A&M and was a 3-year starter there, but I mean I think career wise threw for like 3,000 yards in 3 years because it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I mean he had Leland McElroy and he had a lot of guys that turn around and hand the ball off, and Dat Wynn on the other side, and they're playing Aaron Glenn who was a coach and these guys that they had a great defense, so they just ran the ball and played defense. Now they were always ranked. I think they were as high as number 2 in the country one year when Randy was playing. And so I looked at that and I went, well, he's not getting a lot of looks in terms of the opportunity to forward his career more to carry it on to the NFL. And so Josh goes to SMU, and starts as a true freshman there. But the woes that come with being a true freshman, and kind of the ups and downs of playing, and SMU was kind of an upstart program at the time. They were just coming off of probation, and able to kind of do some things again. So they were just kind of trying to make a name for themselves again. But they went through 3 head coaches in 3 years. And Josh ends up going to Sam Houston State and has a great season there. It becomes a 3rd-round pick to the Arizona Cardinals in 2002. And so I kind of looked at all of that, looked at what they did. Randy redshirted at Texas A&M. Josh didn't at SMU. I was 6'4" and about 180 pounds. I needed to gain some weight. Now, I could run, I could move, I could jump, but I needed to get bigger. I mean, I may not have been 180. I was probably 176. And so when we weighed the options, Oklahoma said, well, we've got a senior quarterback, and we want you to come in this next year and compete. And Louisiana Tech goes, well, we got a guy that we think can play for this year. If you want a red shirt, that's a good plan for us too. And so kind of weighed those things. Louisiana Tech, they were both kind of on the cusp of this air raid, right? This was when Josh Heupel and those guys were lighting the world on fire, throwing the ball, scoring 60 a game. Well, Tim Rattay has already made that cool. For the last 3 years at Louisiana Tech, you guys remember the game against Nebraska where he throws for like 590 yards. And this is a black curtain Nebraska defense, right? And Troy Edwards goes for like 400 yards receiving. And so I'm looking around going, okay, I know I want to throw the ball. I know I want to do that. Now what else fits? And so we take our visit. And I want to say we'd go back-to-back weekends. We go to Oklahoma. It was great visit, great opportunity, great atmosphere. The very next week, go to Louisiana Tech. And I remember leaving that and obviously spending a lot of time in prayer asking God, what do you want, right? What do you want from this? And I remember we end the visit at Louisiana Tech and hop on I-20, headed back to Texas. And before we hit I-20, I look at my dad and I go, this is where I'm going to school at. He goes, are you sure? And I said, yep. God made this very clear. And I tell kids this all the time, like, God's the one who designed our bodies, right? He's the one who kind of formed us, right? Jeremiah says he formed us in our mother's womb. Like, he knows exactly what he did. So when he gives you gut feelings, like about things, somebody goes, well, it's just a gut feeling. Well, I think it's the Holy Spirit when he kind of leads you. If you've been diligent in prayer on things and he gives you a feeling about something, well, God designed your body to kind of give you that urge, that prompting. And I said, yeah, Dad, I think this is it. I think God made it very clear for me. This is where I'm going to school at. It's a small town. They throw the ball. They want me to redshirt. You know, it met everything that we had kind of prayed about and been through. And so Louisiana Tech was the deal. And I know it kind of sounds crazy. You choose, like, Oklahoma was in the national championship like the year before. And you go, yeah, you know what? It wasn't about that. It was about going where God wanted me to be. And I ended up not redshirting anyways. I get 3 games into the season, and the starter tears his ACL. And so I go in and I play really well. And we end up going to Middle Tennessee and lose our first game there at Murfreesboro. And then we play back-to-back on the road against Auburn and against Miami. And so this was the Auburn teams that had Rudy Johnson was the running back who set the single game rushing record on us. But we take them down to the wire. I think they beat us by 6. I played really well in that game. We go to Miami the next week. This is the Miami that had Ed Reed, Mike Rump, Al Blades, Philip Buchanan, John Vilma, DJ Williams, Jeremy Shockey, like Clinton Portis, right? I mean, it's just a who's who on the team. Vince Wilfork. I mean, all these guys.
I would have been sick that day.
Oh my, yeah, it was crazy. And you know what? But the only thing, when I walked into that stadium, we walked into the Orange Bowl, and I was always a very confident kid. You know, like we just talked earlier, I competed against my brothers all the time, so I felt like. But when I walked into that stadium, and somebody went, "Man, can you believe you're about to play the Miami Hurricanes?" And I went, "You know what? I belong here. I don't care this with Louisiana Tech. I belong here because Butch Davis was in my field house at my high school offering me a scholarship about 3 months ago. And so I belong here. He thought I should be here. So why shouldn't I think I should be here? And we end up being the reason that that year it was margin of victory, right? And so that year it was Oklahoma and Florida State in the national championship game. We were the reason why Miami didn't go to the national championship game. Is because they only beat us by 11, whatever it was. I think it was 43-32 or some kind of weird score like that. But yeah, I mean, listen, you can get caught up in kind of the glitz and the glam. And I know recruiting is different for kids nowadays because NIL is different, money's different, all those things are. And I don't knock any of that at all. But what I hope it doesn't do is for the kid that goes, man, I'm really praying about this and I'm really giving it over to God and I really want God to direct my steps. And then some booster slides a check with more commas than he's ever seen. And that becomes the determining factor. And then he misses out on what God truly wanted for him. Because I wouldn't go back and change it. I wouldn't go back and go to Oklahoma. I wouldn't go back and go to Florida State. I wouldn't go back and go to what have you, right? I wouldn't go to Miami. I would go back to Louisiana Tech because that's where God put me. And when you listen to the Holy Spirit, that's going to be what's best for you. And somebody might say, well, you didn't have an opportunity to be drafted higher. Yeah, maybe I would. Maybe I would have been drafted higher. But you know what I may not have done? I may not have met my wife. And my family may not be what it is now, right? And I may not have made I may not have developed as a man, as a Christian man, with the mentors and the guys that discipled me at Louisiana Tech. And so those are the things that I think about when I kind of try and advise my own kids as far as, recruiting and all that stuff goes. Man, we're gonna soak it in prayer and let God make those decisions for us.
It's the only way, the surefire way is to just put the trust in Him. And
yep.
I think it was meant to be because of the way that offense falls and the way that he throws the ball. Because I'll give you a small world thing. I was talking about this episode coming up, Daniel. Our friend JJ January, Javera had a football scholarship to Louisiana Tech, but he obviously went pro in baseball. He would have played with Luke. He would have came in that same year. Anyway, he was talking about, as a running back, he was talking about that offense and the style they ran. And he said, if you saw the tape on Luke, that was the perfect offense for him. So I think it went exactly how it was supposed to go.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I mean, it's clear. He played 40. You played 42 games. You had 12, almost 13,000 passing yards, 88 touchdowns. You were ranked 8th most in Division I history.
Yeah.
When you look at that, obviously you had to have a ton of fun. But what were some of your favorite moments and favorite games?
Oh wow!
In your Louisiana Tech.
He told you, making sure Miami didn't go to the national championship.
That's got to be one. That's got to be one.
That's it. Yeah, that was one. I mean, that was a lot of fun. It's really here's how kind of oblivious I was. When we finished that game, and I go and do the press conference after the game or whatever, and of course, like I said, Butch Davis had recruited me, and Chuck Pagano, the former Indianapolis, he was the secondary coach, maybe even the defensive coordinator at the time, and he was in the field house as well recruiting, and so he comes over after the game. He was like, I can't believe you didn't come here. I can't believe you told me no. Right? I can't believe you told me no. And so I get to the press conference, and the first question off the bat is, do you know how many times you threw the ball in this game? I'm like, I've got no idea. I'm just out there playing. If they call a play, I'm like, whatever play the offensive coordinator calls, I'm going to execute, He's like, you threw it 72 times in this game. And I just kind of laughed, like 72 times. Okay, is that a lot? Because I didn't know. I honestly didn't grow up watching a whole lot of college football until my brother started playing. I was like, is that a lot? And he's like, well, that's pretty much a record. Nobody's ever done that before. And so anyways, we get into the meeting the next day. We had 80 pass plays called. We only ran 92 plays. well, I say only, it's a lot. We ran like 92 plays. We had 80 pass plays called. And so whether I ended up scrambling or whatever it was, we had 80 called. And to look back on that now, and having played against the greatest safety of all time in Ed Reed in the NFL and watch what he did, and I go, man, I did not know Ed Reed was who he was when I played him in Miami. I was just out there enjoying the time, having fun, throwing the ball. So that was definitely one of them. Butch Davis ends up drafting me to the Cleveland Browns. He was the head coach in Cleveland in the 4th round in 2004. And the first thing that he says to me when, draft and all this other stuff, we get up there, the first thing he says to me on the phone is, "You can't say no to me now." So he said, "I'm not recruiting you. I'm drafting you. You can't say no now." So that was a lot of fun. Just kind of how those paths crossed. And again, a total God thing. God set all that up. But there's a couple of games we played Oklahoma State 2 years in a row. We played them my sophomore year and then my junior year. And we go to Oklahoma State. And now this is Les Miles, Jim. And so we play them in Oklahoma my sophomore year. And we don't play very good. Now, we had a really good offense my sophomore year. I think I had 30 touchdown passes as a sophomore. And we had a really good offense. We didn't play very good in that game. And I didn't play particularly well. I think the game, they ended up beating us like 13-7, like something stupid. And really embarrassing for a team that scored the way that we scored. And so I knew I didn't play well. We really didn't, third downs were bad for us. Red zone was bad for us. We turned the ball over a couple of times. So we're opening up with them my junior year. And this is heading into the 2003 season or 2002 season. And Les Miles still head coach. I'm doing some kind of pregame media stuff. And one of the guy that I'm doing the radio with says, "Hey, I don't know if you call Les Miles as, kind of bulletin board material, but, here's what he had to say." And he plays it for me. And it's something to the effect of, we should have embarrassed those guys last year. We're going to make sure we embarrass them when we come to Shreveport here in a couple of weeks, something to that effect. And again, super confident, East Texas kid, no filter, right? And no filter in regards to don't give the enemy bulletin board material, whatever. And I looked at our radio host, Fletcher, and I said, "Hey, Fletch, you just make sure you let Les Miles know that I only scored 7 points last year. I promise you I won't only score 7 points, tomorrow, whatever the game was. Like I fully intend to execute the way that I expect to execute." So they jump out on us, and they're beating us. We're down 36-18, something like that in the at the beginning of the beginning of the fourth quarter. And we're finally getting some momentum and moving the ball a little bit. And I'll never forget, we score. We start cutting the lead down, and we score a time or two. And so we're down 36-30. And we've got a linebacker named Adam McCown. He was a transfer that came over from, he played it, Evangel Christian, and he went to Texas, and he ended up transferring over from Texas for his senior year to play at Louisiana Tech. Anyways, I go out, and we had moved the ball well. We had kind of found our rhythm and offense, and I 3 and out, whatever happens, I'm coming off the field, and I tell Adam, I say, "You get the ball back for us. We're going to win this game. Like, go get me the ball. I promise you I'll get you a win." And like 2 plays later, strip fumble, recovers it, and he runs the ball over to me, and he sticks him. He says, "Go do what you said you're going to do." And so we end up hitting a touchdown. I throw a touchdown to Eric Franklin in the corner. I can see it right now in the left end zone, in the left corner of the end zone, on a 4th and 8. And we go to empty, and we kind of run this double smash with a pipe down the middle, and I pump the pipe down the middle. Safety takes it. I end up hitting E. Frank in the corner for a touchdown. We end up winning that game, 2-point conversion. We end up winning the game 38-36. And so that was huge. That was a big time win for us, big time, because Jack Bicknell, my head coach, really hated that I said what I said, to Les Miles before the game, and so that was a lot of fun. And again, that just kind of goes back to the competition. I just like, let's compete. If we're going to compete, let's compete. And if you can say stuff, I can say it too, and let's see who's going to back it up. So the next year, my senior year, we go to Michigan State, East Lansing, and again, nobody expects us to do anything against a Big Ten team. That was pretty good. They have a guy, Jeff Smoker. Jeff and I were the same age. Jeff was a good high school quarterback. Obviously went to a big school, and then I went to a small school, and so there was a lot of talk about that. But kind of the same deal. We didn't play kind of up to our standards. They had a pretty good defense that year. They had a couple of guys that played in the NFL a couple of years, and all of a sudden here, the last, I can't remember what it was, but last 120 seconds, something like that, 2 minutes of the game, we score twice. We score, get an onside kick, score again, and we end up upsetting a Big Ten team. Both of those teams ended up going on to be top 10 ranked that season after they lost to us. And so I look at that and go, well, we beat top 10 teams. Now, they weren't top 10 at the time, but they ended up being top 10. Maybe we're the reason why they were top 10. So I always take a lot of pride in those. But those are two memories that those kind of go with you forever. I don't think there'll ever be a time where I don't remember Adam bringing me that ball over to the sideline and going, hey, you said you could do it. Now let's see. I held up my end of the bargain. You hold up your end of the bargain. And so those are the memories that you remember. Doesn't matter what size the school is. You go and have fun, and you compete, and you put your best foot forward, and that's what sport's about.
Yeah, Daniel, and I know you haven't been to Ruston, but I've talked to you about it, especially when I was there visiting just last year. And if there's anything I know, that town, that's all that's there is Louisiana Tech, and that's all they care about, and they love it. It's a nice stadium too, and so I know that that had to be a fun time for you, especially that town, just enjoying the ride that you guys carried them on. But ultimately, like you said, you get drafted by the Cleveland Browns. You would end up starting 4 games. What I want to know is, what did you learn the most about yourself in that rookie season?
Yeah, a lot. I learned that I'm not as good as I thought I was, right? And that's what every rookie should walk away going, man, I'm not as good as I thought I was. All right. Very rarely do you walk away, thinking, man, I got this all together. As a matter of fact, you should probably never, like, I spent last weekend with Drew Brees at his Hall of Fame ceremony in Canton, and the things that we shared and talk about are still, you've probably heard Brady talk about this. It's not the things that they have accomplished; it's the things that they missed out on. Like, we could have been better here. I remember this season. I remember this throw. I remember this particular game, whatever it was. And there's never a moment of arriving. And so now I had a little bit of a leg up in terms of Josh already being in the league for 2 years or 3 years when I was a rookie. And so I kind of went into it knowing what to expect a little bit. But my first, again, this is kind of, it's funny, I guess, but my true freshman year, I ended up, aside from Middle Tennessee State, I ended up playing Auburn and Miami, who were both highly touted. Miami was probably the best team that college football has ever seen in terms of a roster. Well, my first start as a rookie was against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots when they just won 21 straight games on their way to a second Super Bowl out of 3 years. And when I tell you that game, then this was my first start. Butch, it was a rough season for us. Butch ends up resigning that week. They named Terry Robisky the interim head coach. He names me the starter for the week. So it's kind of like, well, okay, let's go. And again, as a young player, confident guy. Now I was in a draft class with Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Schaub, and myself. We were the top 5. I think I'm missing one. JP Losman. JP was the other first rounder in that draft. So a very talent heavy quarterback draft class. And I felt like standing there with those guys, and I've known all of them for a long time. I knew them in college. That, man, why couldn't I have been drafted in the first round, right? And so I kind of have that chip on my shoulder, and so the opportunity to play was like, okay, my turn. Let me show you what I can do. Well, when I tell you, it wasn't 50 seconds off the clock in the first quarter, and it was 14-0 already. Bethel Johnson takes the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. We get the ball. We go 3 and out. They go 2 plays and score. And so it's like, okay, this is not the same as the preseason. And I had a really good preseason as a rookie player. 5 touchdowns and 1 interception, like a really good preseason. Like everybody's like, oh, this guy's for real. And this first game was like, okay, we're not in the preseason anymore. You're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. And so I left that season, my rookie year, with a really bad taste in my mouth because it wasn't the arrow pointing straight up to being who I thought I could be, like I had always imagined, like my confidence had always said. Now I didn't lose confidence in myself, but it was a kind of a wake up call, like a reality check that says, hey, you're in the NFL, and they don't care how confident you are. They care about how competent you are, right? It's a matter of how, like, everybody's good and everybody's confident. That's not the issue. It's about being able to go out and execute. And so that was probably what I took the most out of there is and there was a lot of things that went on with regards to the offense and just kind of, it was a hodgepodge of stuff that we were trying to make work after Butch resigned, right? We were just trying to make things work and throw stuff at the wall and see what stuck. And so it wasn't an easy, thing by any stretch of the imagination. But I learned that, dude, this is the NFL, and you better bring your A game every week. And so, I made it a point. I ended up getting traded after that season. The following draft, I ended up getting traded. They trade everybody that had any value left, and they cut everybody else pretty much. Romeo Crennel comes in as the head coach. Phil Savage comes in as the GM, and they end up drafting a guy named Charlie Fry in the 3rd round out of Akron, so a hometown kid. I get traded to Tampa Bay, and I always like to say, and it's no disrespect to Cleveland, but this is where my pro career began, because this is where I learned how to study film. This is where I learned what I felt like in the West Coast offense with John Gruden, as hard as it is, and as voluminous as it is, in terms of just the mass of the playbook and the words and the verbiage and all the things that you hear. That's what the real NFL is about. That's what real NFL offenses look like. And so this is when my career took off. I learned more offensive football in those 4 years, and I truly believe, as hard as John Gruden was on me, and you hear the clips of every now and then NFL films, and he's cussing out Chris Sims about a play call, a long play call that Chris can't kind of regurgitate in the huddle. That was daily for both Chris and I. Like, that wasn't an easy – like, he didn't just treat Chris that way. He was everybody. And but it calloused you. It made you hard. You either wilted under that pressure or you rose to the occasion and you handled it. And so it taught me that resiliency to kind of not flinch and be able to handle a lot of stuff in a short amount of time, be able to handle stuff as a quarterback at the line of scrimmage, protection changes, audibles, hand signals, all the different stuff. This is when my pro career began. And so leaving Cleveland with, whoa, that didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go, to, man, this is hard, but I can do this. I can do this. It really taught me how to manage my kind of study habits, how to manage the offensive playbook, what matters, what doesn't matter, and then how to implement it and still put my personality, my spin, my confidence, my twist on it. John would always say, Coach Gruden would always say, I want you to own the offense. I want you to run it the way that I want you to run it, but I want you to put your spin on it. Like, put your take on it. And he would coach all of his quarterbacks that way. So this is where I thought my career kind of began as a quarterback in the NFL. I always say that I stayed in the league for 13 years because I spent 4 years in Tampa under John Gruden. I learned how to handle stress. Like his practices, his meetings were stressful. Like there wasn't a day you walked in where you felt like I got this all together. He didn't allow you to feel that way. He made you feel like that dude's about to cut me. He's gonna get rid of me tomorrow. Like, you know what I'm saying? And again, some guys, it was a revolving door of quarterbacks. People always talk about how John he liked to date quarterbacks a lot. But it was a revolving door, and guys came in and man, he would be hard on them and they just kind of wilt and they couldn't handle it. And so I was determined that he's not going to break me. I'm gonna make it, and I'm gonna handle it. And felt like I did, but I felt like the reason I hung around in the NFL so long is because I learned how to handle a massive amount of offense. Case in point, when I got traded from Tampa to Jacksonville, and this is not to be disparaging or demeaning in any way towards the Jacksonville offense or Dirk Cutter, but his offense was much more condensed in terms of what I had been learning for the last 4 years. So when I got there, the ability to download that offense was like, oh, I can handle this. I'll get this in a week. That's not a big deal. And so being able to handle massive amounts of information that Gruden wanted you to handle as a quarterback allowed me to go into any situation, whether it was going to Jacksonville or going to New Orleans for a minute, then to Atlanta, and then back to New Orleans, being able to handle any offense that was thrown at me just because of how much he required the quarterbacks to handle when I was under John Gruden.
So, I mean, obviously you play for a lot of elite coaches, played along with a lot of elite quarterbacks.
Yeah.
We could go through it all, but as a Saints fan, I got to go to my man Drew Brees, got to go talking about playing for Sean Payton. You do get to play behind, guys like Garcia and Ryan, and I'd love to talk about those guys, but I'm gonna talk about playing with my guy Drew Brees. Like, talk about you just had the Hall of Fame ceremony. You talked about it, but man, I've heard stories, I've seen stories, but this is the first time we've gotten to interview somebody who was there along for the ride for as many years as you were. Yeah. Talk about what it was like playing alongside Drew Brees and in that Sean Payton offense.
Man, I wish. It's funny. I was talking to my dad the other day, and what you guys got to see, the brilliance of Drew Brees, you only got to see it on Sundays, it's such a shame. The talent, the ability that Drew had, his accuracy is legendary. Just his competitive nature, his mind, all the things that he did as a quarterback. You guys only got to see like 1/5 of it. I got to see it every day of the week. And I'm telling you, the oohs and ahs that you guys may do on Sunday when you see a throw that he made, it's like, how in the world did he do that? I do that on the sideline during the game, but I would do it in practice standing behind him. Like, how did he just do that? Like, again, very confident, always confident in my ability. I felt like I could throw it with anybody. And I would go, I don't think I can make that throw.
I mean, I was watching a video the other day, Lou. They were having the whole discussion about was, Michael Thomas, an elite receiver, how people really love to have fun with the Michael Thomas discussion. But sure. I was watching the highlight video, and what I realized is, regardless how you feel about Michael Thomas, it felt like every time Michael Thomas turned on a route, the ball was right in his hands. Like that was the thing about it. Like, it's really hard to have a discussion about, because it was specifically a video where it was talking about he was beating coverage, and it was like, man, it's not hard when you turn and the ball is in the only place where a receiver can catch it and a DB can't do anything about it.
Yeah, no, it's and again, I believe that the Lance Moores, the Marcus Colsons, the Jimmy Grahams of the world would tell you the same thing. Devery Henderson, Robert Meacham, Brandon Cooks. I believe that they would all tell you the same thing, that it wasn't Mike Thomas. It wasn't necessarily their ability to get open. And that's not saying they couldn't get open. Because Mike had I watched Megatron, extreme catch radius, like throw it anywhere within his, and he's going to come down with it. I think Mike Thomas, not as big, probably not as physically strong, certainly not as fast or can jump as high. I think Mike Thomas had the greatest catch radius that I've ever seen. Like you put it into his neighborhood and he's going to catch it. I think Marcus was pretty close to it too. Jimmy was pretty dang good himself. But Mike wasn't known for his quickness. And you can just watch him run routes, and he would tell you that. Like, he's not the quickest guy in the world. He wasn't known for his speed. I think he was a 4.5, 4.6 guy, like not super fast. And so I don't know that I would tell you this. A lot of people would say they don't think Mike would have been Mike if he didn't have Drew, if he didn't have the ball, bang, right there, because he didn't have the quickness to create separation in routes. I'm not going to say that to Mike, but I've heard people say it. Mike was great. I think Mike would have been a multi-time All-Pro had he stayed healthy, had he been able to stay with Drew for longer. But I'm telling you, the ability to place balls in spots where, and Drew would say this, I always feel like there's a place I can put the ball where my guy can catch it. I never felt like, and somebody goes, well, what do you mean that's covered? Drew would go, no, that's not covered. I just got to find the right place to put the ball. And he could, and it's remarkable. And I don't know how you develop that gift. I think it's completely God-given. Because I felt like I got more and more accurate the longer my career went. I started 5 games in Tampa and completed, I think, 69% of my passes in those 5 games. I had, the one game against Carolina, I was 31 of 38, I think. So I felt like I was a pretty accurate guy. And I would stand on the field in practice for 4 years, and I would watch Drew, and he would make throws, and I would go, I can't make that throw. There's no way. Like I wouldn't even attempt that throw.
Right.
And so, and again, that did a lot of things for me later in my career, because I never had my brother had 40 or 50 starts. He had opportunities to be the guy in a couple of different spots, and it just didn't work out for one reason or another. I never really had that opportunity to kind of be the guy. Now, I had some moments where they, like in Jacksonville in 2010, they're about to make a switch from David Garrard to me. They pull him at the end of the San Diego game in week 2. We go up and down the field and score a couple of times, and I'm running in the end zone. I'm going to make a cut, and I blow my ACL out. And they were going to make a switch the next week. And so I had moments where I was kind of robbed of it through injury or whatever, So my career was always like, how can I prove that I can be somebody's starter? Right. That I can be that bridge, that a la Kirk Cousins to Fernando Mendoza, right? Something like that. I can be that. And so my career was the backup role that I played. The preseason meant so much to me because it was my opportunity to go, whoever you are out there watching, you ought to consider bringing me in to compete with your starter, or compete or an opportunity to be your bridge quarterback for your young quarterback, right? And when I got to New Orleans and I played behind Drew, I became a much better player because I started to realize who I was as a player better. Like, I know I'm not that guy. Like, it's so clear that I'm not as good as that guy that I'm actually more comfortable in my own skin now. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like, I was able to play the game better the way that I saw the game because I wasn't trying to see it the way that Drew saw it. I wasn't trying to make the throws that Drew – in other words, I wasn't trying to prove that, hey, you ought to let me compete with Drew Brees. Ain't no way I'm competing with that dude. Like, he's that good. You talk about stories. My first practice there, okay, in off-season OTAs, and we're running Augo special. His favorite play is trips 3x1. It's 4 verticals. The X on the outside single receiver's got a vertical. Your tight end is through the middle, kind of a not a deep cross, but an angle to the far side hash. Then you've got a seam by Marcus Colston. Then you've got Robert Meacham playing Z. He's out here, running the go. And this is just practice now, but he gets pushed back into his face, and the center, and Drew's 6'1". If you want to call him 6'1", go ahead.
I met Drew once. He ain't 6'1".
He's somewhere between 6'00" and 6'00.9", right? And so he's got this center kind of sitting in his lap. And he stands up on his toes. Everybody's seen him do this. He stands up and lifts his head up like that. He's trying to see a little bit more. But he's got a hand in the back of the center. And Jimmy's moving across here. And I'm standing. So all of my 4 years, I stood 6 yards behind Drew. Because he didn't let anybody take practice reps. Like, he took them all. So my reps came from what I got to see visually from behind the pocket, right? And so I'm standing there, and so I'm trying to see what he's seeing. He's up on his tiptoes. He's got his head tilted up like that, trying to see with a hand in the back of the center. And the ball's kind of back here, kind of just hanging. And he throws it. And it's the most unbelievable throw I've ever seen. And it just falls. Jimmy catches it beautifully. And the whole team standing back there is like, did you see that? How in the world did it? And I'm standing there. I'm 6'4", and I'm going, I know he couldn't see Jimmy. Like, I know he couldn't see Jimmy. There's no way. And so, man, I wish the fans of Drew Brees, I wish Who Dat Nation got to see every day what all of us players, all of us teammates got to see from the standpoint of his talent, from the standpoint of his work ethic. I know Reggie posted a thing about, kind of his Saturday ghost walkthrough where he's calling plays in the indoor. There's nobody else. There's no ball. There's no anything, and he's in there by himself. I wish the greatness that was Drew Brees wasn't by accident. The greatness that is Drew Brees wasn't by accident, man. He put so much time and so much effort, so much visualization, and then the God-given talent. He put it on display week in and week out, day in and day out, moment in, practice in and practice out. And it was an incredible honor to be able to be a teammate, to call him a friend. The man he is, the testimony that he has, he gave his life to Christ at 17. To watch him strive to be a godly man, to kind of be a part of that journey and help disciple a little bit and have discussions on our plane rides. We were plane seat mates. We shared a row together, and so man, I'm thoroughly blessed. I'm a better person. Certainly, I'm more knowledgeable about football. I felt like I became a better quarterback because of the time I got to spend with Drew Brees.
Man, that's Daniel. That's exactly what I expected to hear, wanted to hear, and it's just it's amazing you got that opportunity. And you say that we only got to see part, and I'm so appreciative of what we got to see, just that part. Who he was is, you talk about all phases. We saw just glimpses of who he was as a father, a husband, a leader on the football field, and I love the story. He may have not committed his life to Christ till later, but God had a plan, obviously, with the whole situation and how it didn't work, where he went to Miami, ends up meeting with Peyton and the Bensons, and, just feels like New Orleans calling to him. Like you were talking about that gut feeling, like, and, he felt like something was right about it. And so you love it. And then you see that Hall of Fame speech, and he's just all about New Orleans. And that's why, he will always be the most loved son in that city and for what he did. And so just awesome that you got the opportunity to be a part of that and to see that. But, ultimately, I want to talk about transition to your faith. You've had faith, since you were young, but when it came to football, you talked about, understanding your role, different destinations, whether you're back of all that, how much did you have to lean into your faith to realize, this may be God's plan? I may not be, like you said, the guy who's going to be the elite starter in the NFL. I may be a guy who's a journeyman backup.
Yeah, that's a great question. So my um, my freshman year of high school, I broke my wrist, my right wrist. Couldn't play quarterback that year. I ended up like kicking and playing corner with a cast on my wrist. And that was kind of my first taste of this being taken away or kind of going a different direction than maybe I had planned. And so I wrote a scripture from that year on. I wrote a scripture on my left wrist tape. It's Proverbs 16:9. It says, "A man's heart plans the way, but the Lord directs his steps." And little did I know that that would become kind of the anthem, the life verse for my career. Um, nobody gets drafted and plans to be traded or wants to be traded the year after they get drafted. Uh, I was no different. It didn't matter who I got drafted to. I know it sounds goofy, but I was the one that was like, no, I'm going to take Cleveland to the Super Bowl. I'm going to be the ones to take the Browns like to paradise. That was me. And here we are, a year removed from the draft. My wife is pregnant with our first son, and we get traded to Tampa. And it's like, whoa, this is not how I wanted this to go. It's not at all how I expected it to go. And so that was kind of the first taste. But again, a man's heart plans the way, but the Lord directs his steps. So we're in Tampa for 2 years. And going into my second year there, this is 2006, and I've kind of worked my way into being Chris Sims' backup. Chris was backup the previous year in 05 to Brian Greasy, and Brian gets hurt, and Chris takes over, and we go to the playoffs. We lose to the Redskins and the Redskins at the time, to Washington in the playoffs, and so Chris becomes our starter the next year, and I'm Chris's backup, and I'm feeling really comfortable in the offense. I'm kind of feeling myself again that first year. Getting traded was, like I said, kind of learning how to manage all of John Gruden's offense. And the last practice of OTAs, the last period of the last practice of OTAs, I scramble out of the pocket. I go to make a cut. Derek Brooks is chasing me from this side. I go to plant, go back inside it, and I pop my ACL. Freak, non-contact, just put my foot in the ground to change directions and pop my ACL. And it just kind of, again, like, you got to be kidding me. It's not how my college career went, like inserted as the starter, week 3 and never looked back. 43 straight games, never missed a game, didn't deal with injury, none of that. And so I had viewed my NFL career through the same lens. I felt like, why won't it just work out the same way? Why wouldn't God's plan be any different now? And we've already had a move and we've already had an injury. God is good, man. He's really good to us. Kind of work my way back off the injury. Worked my way back in 2007. This is the year that let me move back. In 2006, Chris ruptures his spleen against the Carolina Panthers and ends up almost losing his life on the field. So what turned out to be an opportunity, what would have been an opportunity for me, was an opportunity missed because of an injury. Well, 2007 comes around, and worked my way back into a position to play. And we've had our second son now, Elijah. And I'm backing up Jeff Garcia. We go to Seattle. This is week 2. I go to Seattle, and Jeff gets dinged up a little bit. No big deal. I go in for like 4 or 5 plays, literally 4 or 5 plays. We don't really do anything. We're getting blown out in Seattle. I think we lose by 35. Big game, and so nobody plays well. Nobody does anything. I play like 6 snaps. I come in the next day. And John has made me now the inactive third quarterback and no longer the backup, with no explanation, no hey, here's what we're thinking. Nothing like that. Okay. Well, kind of paralleling that was my second son at home dealing with a bump on his head that he developed after a fall. Now, when I say my second son, he's like 3 months old at the time. And so he kind of wiggles his way out of his little rocking chair onto the hardwood floor, hits his head. We get him checked out, no big deal. Doctors are like, it's fine. No. Well, he starts developing a little bump on the side of his head. That benching or demotion from John Gruden coincides almost exactly with the day that we found out that was a tumor on my son's head. And so I get a call from my wife, and she goes, "Hey, the doctor said it's a tumor and it's inside the skull and it's eating its way out of this 3-month-old skull." And I like, well, okay, what are we going to do? And he said, well, they got to do surgery. I'm at practice, and obviously my mind goes, I'm not thinking anything about football right now. And so you see God's hand moving. What happens for those that are listening that don't understand, the inactive third quarterback is kind of like he's the last resort to play in the game. If the inactive third quarterback is now I can suit out. I can be in full pads, full uniform. I can suit out and still be named inactive. And what that means is if I go in and I play for any reason whatsoever, then the starter and the backup cannot go back in the game. It's a little bit like baseball. If you pull a pitcher, you can't put him back in, right? Like it's a little bit like that. So what happens when you're the inactive third quarterback, they're going to put a running back in before they put you in, right? And so as a backup quarterback, you don't get many reps in practice, if any at all. Your work is done at home. Your work is done on the computer. Your work is done in the film room. That's where you're getting your reps. You're not getting live reps. Like I can count on one hand the amount of reps that I got as a backup to Drew Brees, and sometimes fewer than that at other places. Just about none at all with Matt Ryan as Matt's backup. That's just not what happens in the NFL. The reps are so valuable, and the starter wants to be so good, and so in tune with his guys. There's just not reps to go around. So what that did for me, John didn't know this, but what that did for me was that freed me up when I got home. I don't have to take work home with me now, right? I got to go home and be with my wife and worry about whether this tumor on my son's head is cancerous or not. So long story short, what was supposed to be a 4-hour surgery turns into a 1-hour surgery. And the doctor comes out and goes, "We're done." I say, "What do you mean? You told me it's going to be a 4-hour surgery. You're cutting a hole out of his skull, all this stuff." No, turns out that when we got in there, we opened it up, that the tumor was just sitting on top of his skull, making an indentation in his skull. And he says, "Now, I've done thousands of these. I read CAT scans all the time. I know what the CAT scan showed me. I can't tell you why it was just sitting on top of your son's skull. I know the CAT scan said it was coming from inside." And so I go, "Well, I know why." I know why. And we had a lot of people praying for us. We obviously cloaked our child in prayer at that time. But what a relief to hear that. But number two, he says this. He says, "I've got to send it off to get biopsied, but I can tell you with 99.9% certainty, it's not malignant. It's benign. You don't have to worry about it. You'll probably never worry about it ever again." And so what relief that gave young parents, what relief that gave me. New perspective, new outlook on life, new outlook on football. Week 12 comes around, and we're 8-4, and we're playing the New Orleans Saints in the Superdome. It's 2007, November 12th. We're 8-4. And whoever wins this game all but seals the NFC South and clinches the 4 seed. And so the week before, Jeff gets kind of banged up. And out of the blue, I get a call from my quarterback coach, Paul Hackett, And Paul calls me and goes, "Hey, you ready to play?" I'm like, "What?" Like I've been a third inactive for like the last 8 weeks. What are you talking about? He's like, "Yep, we want you to start this game." And I'm like, I don't have a care in the world right now. My son's okay. Let's go, right? And so go in, play that game, play extremely well, throw a touchdown pass to Jeremy Stevens with about 30 seconds left on the clock to win the game, to clinch the NFC South. And again, it was God, it was his plans. My heart had planned a certain way about how things should go, but he's directing those steps. So I wish I could say it was all rosy after that. 2008 comes around. I'm a restricted free agent, and that just means that they can make offers to me. And if anybody else makes an offer, they have to match whatever Tampa Bay made. So I'm a restricted free agent, and so they try and lowball me. And I say no. Obviously, I started the next 5 games or 3 games, but played in 5 of them in 2007 and played really well. And a lot of buzz, like he could be a hot name in free agency, all the talk. And so the Buccaneers offer me a kind of a low ball contract. I say no to it, as any smart guy in my position would, because if you got Jeff Garcia again and he gets dinged up again and I go play just the way that I played now, you're going to have to pay me really well. And so I say no. Well, now the kind of business antics of the NFL start coming out. So where I was the backup, I was, kind of this quote hot name in free agency. They bring back in Brian Greasy. Brian becomes the backup to Jeff, and there's this kind of whirlwind of stuff that happens, and I don't play at all that year. As a matter of fact, the same thing happened. Brian had a dinged up elbow, and Jeff had been playing. Jeff gets hurt again during the week, like pulls a calf muscle during the week. Brian was just coming off missing like the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks with an elbow contusion. We're 8-4, same scenario. 8-4 going to play Atlanta. Atlanta's down. They're like 4-8. All we got to do is go into Atlanta, win this game. We win the division. We go to the playoffs. I practice all week to start that game. All week to start that game. And like all the way up to an hour before kickoff, I'm on the field in the Georgia Dome, getting ready to play the Falcons, getting ready to go win that game. And my quarterback coach, Greg Olson, comes out to me and goes, "Hey, he's going to start Brian." I go, "What? Are you serious?" Like, "Greg, I'm going to win this game. We're going to win this game and go to the playoffs." He's like, "Yeah, he's going to start Brian. He wants Brian to start this game." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me." So literally at kickoff, like I'm on the sideline, we're kicking the ball off, or we're getting ready to receive, one or the other, I can't remember now. And Kevin Carter and Chris Hovan, 2 defensive linemen, come up to me and go, "Hey, go do your thing, man. We're with you. Do exactly what you did last year. You'll be great." I didn't have the heart to tell him I'm not about to run out there. So when Brian Greasy trots out for the first drive, for our first possession, everybody looks down the sideline at me like, "What in the world just happened?" And I go, I don't know. But again, a man's heart plans the way, but the Lord directs his steps. So I end up at the end of that year, Gruden gets fired. Raheem Morris gets hired. I end up signing an extension, competing with Josh Freeman and Byron Leftwich, which I ultimately, whether I won or lost that competition really doesn't matter. I ended up getting traded to Jacksonville and played for Dirk Cutter for 3 years. But year 1, learn the offense, back up David Garrard. Year 2, they want me to compete with David Garrard. So I'm competing. I'm playing really good football. Again, a lot of talk, like they could make a switch if David stumbles. If he stubs his toe, they could make a switch, all this other stuff. So week 2, we're in San Diego and not playing very good. David's having a rough go, and they pull him at the beginning of the 4th quarter. We're getting blown out. It's 41-6. But I go in, and for the quarter that I have, I play well. We're up and down the field, and we're moving the ball. And like I said earlier, pop goes my ACL again. And with about 40 seconds left in the game, I'm running in the end zone. I'm on the 6-yard line. I'm going to dive in the end zone. in a game that means nothing, and I blow my ACL out again. And it's like another missed opportunity. And that's the way my career went for the most part, was opportunities that were right there and just was missed. And I remember having these conversations with my wife and all these kind of ups and downs where, like, what, and it wasn't easy. It's like I'm sitting here just as some, super stoic person or whatever. Man, I had moments where, like, if you remember a couple of years ago when the Colts quarterback, why am I drawing a blank here, retired, and he said, man, there were some really dark times coming back from multiple injuries like that, right? And I know exactly what he's talking about, because every time that it seemed like I was about to get my foot in the door and have my opportunity, an injury would happen or some kind of setback, or a coach made a decision to, like, sit me or whatever it was. And I remember having conversations and eventually going, you know what? I remember Jesus looking at Pilate and Pilate saying, don't you know I have the power to release you? And Jesus looks at him on trial, unfairly on trial, right? And he looks at Pilate and he says, you only have the power to do what I give you to do. In other words, he says, you're just a pawn in my scheme. You're a pawn in my plan and how things are going to work out, the way that they're going to work out. The injuries, the setbacks, the missed opportunities, the coach's decisions to sit me when I earned the opportunity to play, all these other things were just tools that God was using to orchestrate the steps of my life, to orchestrate the steps of my career. And I can't be mad about that, because I wrote on my wrist tape, a man's heart plans the way, but the Lord directs his steps. It became the anthem of my career. I had plans to be this starter. I had plans to be go win Super Bowls, just like any kid dreaming about going and playing in the NFL. I had all those plans. And for reasons that weren't necessarily in my control, at least for the most part, there were a few times I didn't play great, I guess. There was one game in particular against the Jets, but man, it was injury. It was things I couldn't control was the reason why I didn't have those opportunities to become a starter. And so it happened again in 2015. I'm the backup and I'm the holder for the Saints, and we run a fake against the Indianapolis Colts. We run a fake, and I roll out to my left and I throw it, and I hit Benjamin Watson, and I get hit as I'm throwing it. And when I hit the ground, a sharp pain in my back, and it starts kind of trickling down my leg, and lo and behold, I rupture a disc in my back. And I had played super solid football for the moments that I got to play the preseason, the previous 2 years. And so, again, there's a lot of these rumblings. I'm healthy. I feel good. I'm playing, again, because I'm more comfortable with who I am. I'm playing really good ball. There's all these talks about he could go be somebody's bridge quarterback while they bring up a young one. And then this injury happens, and all that talk goes away. A man's heart plans the way, but the Lord directs his steps. So later that season, we had drafted a guy by the name of Brandon Cooks in the first round in Oregon from Oregon State, and Ben Watson and I had committed ourselves to kind of being knowing that we were the same age, same draft class, knowing that we were kind of getting old in the league, and we wanted to leave an impact on that locker room. And so we would talk, and Ben's a tremendous believer and a brother in Christ. I love him dearly, and we would talk about what kind of impact are we going to leave, and who are we going to leave it with. And so obviously it was like, well, it needs to be somebody that's going to be here longer than us. We're not going to be here very long. We're old. We're going to retire. We're going to get cut, whatever it is. So we're sitting there visiting, and I'll never forget it. We're in Detroit, and Ben and I, right after our chapel service, before our team meeting, would sit and we'd just kind of talk and hang out for a minute. Well, Brandon Cooks busts in the double doors, and he comes and sits down, and he goes, "What's up, guys?" We go, "Hey, Brandon, what's going on, man?" He goes, "I don't know. Hey, can I ask you guys a question?" Sure. Yeah, go ahead. Will you guys disciple me? And he comes right out and says it. And I'm like, I look at Ben, and he looks at me, and he's like, "Is this the guy that God's kind of put on your heart too?" And it's like, yeah. So Brandon had no idea that we had been praying for him, like for weeks. Like, God, who do you want us to pour into? And then Brandon comes in and asks us. So make a long story just a little bit longer. I'm on injury reserve now, and we've been in all of 2014. We were discipling Brandon, leading him through the scriptures on Saturday night in our hotel room. 2015 comes. I'm on injury reserve now after week, whatever it was, 6 or 7 or 8. And I'm in a therapy pool later in the season. And Brandon's in the hot tub and getting ready for practice or whatever. So we're talking. And he goes, "Can I ask you a question?" I say, "Yeah, sure." And he says, he says, he starts, he says, "Do I have to get baptized in a church? Like, if I want to get baptized, I got to be in a church?" I say, "Man, no, not at all." I said, "Well, does it have to be a preacher?" And I said, "No, it doesn't have to be a pastor or anything like that." I said, "Brandon, here, what I want you to do, I want you to take your Bible. I want you to go home and look in the back of it. Hopefully your Bible has a concordance, and look up everywhere the word baptized shows up and read it." So he does, and he comes back the next day. And Brandon says, I said, "Well, what'd you learn?" And he says, "Well, I don't have to be baptized in a church at all." I said, "That's right." And he goes, "Well, it doesn't have to be a pastor even." I said, "Yeah, that's right." He says, "Well, in that case, would you baptize me?" I said, "Man, I'd love to." And he goes, "No, would you baptize me today in this therapy pool?" And I go, "Man, absolutely, I'd love to." And so I go and get Ben, and we talk with Brandon kind of what baptism is about. And we end up baptizing Brandon. We end up baptizing Willie Sneed, and we end up singing hymns right there. And we have church. We have a baptismal service after practice right there. About 10 or 12 other Saints players, and it was fantastic. And I say all that to say, had I not been on injury reserve, I probably wouldn't have had the capacity. Certainly, if I was a starter, I wouldn't have had the capacity to field that type of question from an eager young believer that wanted to know, how do I fulfill the first commandment that Christ ever gave, and that is to go, repent, and be baptized. How do I walk in step with the scriptures that say I need to go and be baptized? And I go, man, a man's heart plans the way, but the Lord directs his steps. All along, my journey through the NFL wasn't, and I say this with tremendous conviction. That doesn't mean I still don't wish it went different ways, but my journey through the NFL, I was there for God's purposes, not mine. Not because I wanted necessarily, like I wanted to be a starter and I wanted to go play and I wanted to have the bigger contracts and the Super Bowls and I believed those things. I wanted to play, but God moved me and my wife in and out of situations so strategically to position us to become de facto chaplains for teams that needed older believers, veteran believers, for younger people, younger couples like Bree and Brandon Cooks. And so I look back on my career and I go, man, I don't have any regrets. I missed out on some opportunities, but I missed on them because God wanted me to miss on them. And I'm okay with that, because I'm okay setting everything that I want in the hand of God and going, you decide. You got a better judgment than I do. And so that was my journey in the NFL. And a man's heart plans the way, but the Lord directs his steps. And it's okay to have plans. It's okay to have plans. But just know that God's the one that moves pieces in and out of your life, and he's the ultimate one that directs your steps on where he wants you to go. We just got to be willing to follow.
Yeah, I can resonate and understand, because Daniel will tell you, for a long time I struggled. I was in the military for almost 6 years. I'd been meritoriously promoted twice. It was my plan. It was my journey. And then I got cancer and got derailed, and it ended my career early. Had a 3-year stint with it and found myself, just lost. Like that was where I had wrapped my identity. I didn't know why it had been taken, but ultimately I would meet my wife. I would have my kids. I would start leading in ministry. Opportunities just came, but in real time, like I couldn't understand. And that's how it is for a lot of people, right? When we're in the valleys, when we're going through the struggle, we can't see what it is that God's trying to teach us a lot of times, but we got to open ourselves up to what it is. And and understand that there is something better on the other side. But it talks about it in the Bible that we enduring struggle, right? And that as well as anybody as a football player, you're going to have to endure struggle. You're going to have to endure pain to get to the other side. And so I can definitely, obviously wasn't football, wasn't a professional athlete, but I can understand your story and in real time, just not really understanding why it was playing out the way it was, but something bigger on the other side. I do want to ask you more questions, and I'm going to let Daniel finish up. Working for Jesus One, we like to ask athletes directly. You see it on the shirt. It's a bold statement, but everybody has what it means to them. So when you see Jesus One, what does that statement mean to you?
Yeah, listen, I remember that. I think the first time I saw it, Ohio State kind of made it famous. I think, and it's the first time I saw it, but I know how it hits me, and we, as believers, we celebrate, and I don't use that word as kind of a yay moment. We commemorate the crucifixion as we should. It was a big moment. The spotless Lamb taking on the sins of the world. He became sin who knew no sin, so that we might become the righteousness of God. Right, and so we should. But, and it's a big but, I guess, or maybe a small one, however you want to look at it. Lots of men were crucified. The Roman soldiers were very good at this. There were two other men on either side of Jesus that were crucified. Only one of those said, "Hey, I'm going to die. 3 days later, I'm coming back." Like, that's what Jesus One means to me. Right? We don't just, our faith, if our faith rests on a man that was crucified and not risen, then we are, as Paul says in his epistles, are to be pitied above any man. If Christ isn't risen, there's no hope for us. Our faith isn't in a man that was crucified. There were a lot of men that were crucified. Our faith is a man that was crucified, came off the cross, and walked out of the grave 3 days later, because he defeated sin, death, and hell, because he called his shot, because he said, "I'm coming back." And what that does for me, if Christ is raised, this is what Paul tells Timothy in 2 Timothy at chapter 2. He says, "Remember Jesus Christ, raised from the dead, son of David, prophesied to come from the seed of David." Like, he's reminding him, don't worry about death, because if Christ is raised, you'll be raised. That's what Jesus One means to me. It's not just that he endured the cross, scorning its shame. It's that he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the Father, is what Hebrews says, right? That's Jesus One. Lots of men were crucified. We don't celebrate a man on a cross. We celebrate a man who came off the cross and walked out of the grave. That's what we celebrate. That's what we follow. That's the victory that's been won for us. Lots of people are going to die. But Paul encourages Timothy. He says, God didn't give you a spirit of fear or timidity, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed that Nero is walking around here taking Christians and tying them to poles and then burning them at the stake. Don't worry about that, because the last time your eyes close will be the last time your eyes ever close. That's what Jesus One is. Because when your faith is in Christ, if Christ is raised from the dead, Paul's whole message was, if Christ was raised, so will we. Eternity has come through Christ. He has made immortality possible through his gospel. That's what Jesus One means to me.
I love that you quoted that scripture, because Patrick Bailey from the Giants earlier this year, he hit a walk-off home run, and he was actually wearing the Jesus One shirt, and they asked him how he's able to come up and do things like that in clutch moments. And he actually quoted that scripture directly and said he didn't have a spirit of fear and timidity. And it was just the way he knew that and threw it out there. And you could tell that the reporters were just like throwing it. He just hit him with it. And it was like that's being bold and proclaiming the gospel right there in that moment.
That's awesome. I love it.
Luke, I hear all this, and I just gotta commend you for a couple different things. Obviously, your faith and your stories, but also, um, you, Jim and I have 2 kids, and we feel like we talk about this a lot, how difficult it is just to manage 2.
Yeah.
You have 6 kids, and you have all these stories and all this wisdom and all this knowledge, but man, like, how do you balance it all? Because we struggle with this, and you're
Oh,
sitting here
man.
doing it at a high level.
Well, high level, it might be a term used very loosely around here. Number one, I have an amazing wife. They say you outkick your coverage, and man, I kicked the ball square out of the stadium. Like, this isn't even close. Like, there's no way. And so, yeah, there's. I can't take near the credit that for the way that and our kids are great. But they're not perfect. We have our struggles, we have our fights, we have our things that we, lay down at bed at night and go, golly, I surely screwed that up today. God, please have mercy on what I did to my kid today, or what I told him today, or what I told her today. Yeah, it's tough, and but God's grace is sufficient, and again, 6 isn't necessarily what we planned on, although it's not that any of them were surprises, but our initial plan was we're going to have 4, and we got to number 4 and thought, you know what, we're too young to be done having kids. Let's have another one, and then let's have another one, and so we see this as an opportunity to grow the kingdom organically. Like, our kids are going to grow up knowing, at least they're going to be hearing the word of God every day. And I even have to listen. You can hear sports kind of ooze out of my family. It's a big deal to us. We work hard at it. I've got one college quarterback, one college track athlete, a high school quarterback, a high school volleyball player, a junior high quarterback, and a junior high volleyball player. And I have to check myself. I mean, just the other day, said, hey, I know that I tell you focus on the film study, or focus on the read or the workout or getting sleep, or all the things that are necessary for you to be successful at the sport that you're pursuing. But I have to look myself in the mirror and go, are you as intentional with making sure that they're chasing after Jesus the way that they're chasing, the way that you want them to chase after that sport that they're going after? I have to do that. Just the other day, I was like, man, hey, I need to back up, because I don't know that I've led you properly in making sure that you're in your Bible every morning, or making sure that you're, walking with Jesus that way. And so it's tough. We have our things that get in the way. But that's where Paul would say that Jesus told him through the Spirit, my power is made perfect in your weakness, right? This comes on the heels of Paul saying, I've got this thorn in my side, and I pleaded with the Lord 3 times, take this thorn out of my side, take this hardship, whatever it is going on, and what this weakness, whatever it might have been for Paul. There's a lot of conjecture about what it was. And Jesus says, my power is actually made perfect in that weakness. My grace is sufficient for that. You just lean into it. And so we do. We mess up as parents just as much as anybody else. And we've got to check ourselves at the end of the day and go, did I point them to Jesus as much as I pointed them to that sport? And if I didn't, then what am I teaching them about that sport? Am I the reason why that's become an idol in their life, or may become an idol in their life, or could become an idol in their life one day? Is that my fault? Because as fathers, as us 3 as fathers, the Bible's very clear that we will be the ones to give an account for what God entrusted to us, what he gave to us. Said, what'd you do with what I gave you? I gave you responsibility over your wife and over your children. Those first and foremost two greatest ministries that each of us have. What'd you do with it? Well, God, I really tried to make them really good at football. Bro, you missed it. I really tried to make them really good at, at surfing, whatever it is. Bro, you missed it. It's not that that's a bad thing. But are you pointing them to me as much as you're pointing them to that sport? And that's what I constantly, probably more so here lately, have really tried to check myself on. But listen, my wife, she's perfect. She doesn't have to check herself on anything because she gets it right. I don't.
I say the same thing about mine, but it's as you talk about that, I've been in a struggle just because my daughter, she's going into her junior year at LSU, and she's kind of strayed away from the church, and my wife has had to, say we raised her a certain way, and in the Bible it says that you lay that foundation, they'll find their way back. So it's like we just have to continue to pray. We have to continue to support her, let her know,
100%.
Instead of telling her what she's doing wrong, continue to try to lead her into the ways that are right. And so it's definitely one of those things. But man, it's really encouraging just you talking about leading the six of them. Daniel, we knew they'd be athletes, right? As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we found out that one of his brothers has 4 kids, Daniel, and that's why he went and had 5 and 6 because he had to win.
Had to win. That's it.
Had that more. Yeah.
Had to win.
Well, Luke, we're gonna jump into a game that we like to play before we end every episode. It's a quick little game. We're gonna play this or that.
Okay.
It's very simple. I'm gonna give you 2 options. All you got to do is rapid fire through these, and you pick one option or the other.
Okay.
Can't say both. Can't say neither. You got to be decisive. You got to pick one or the other.
Oh man. All right. On the spot. Here we go.
All right. Here we go. Out the gate. Coffee or energy drink?
Coffee.
Yeah. How do you drink? How do you take your coffee?
Hazelnut cream and sugar.
That's cute.
That's cute. I know.
All right. Burger or taco?
Burger.
Yeah. Can't go wrong there. Are you
And
a
that's
phone
from a
call
Texas
person?
guy. Like,
Yeah.
we love some tacos now.
Very true. You like your beef though. That's for
Love our
sure.
beef.
Phone call or text?
Text.
Text.
Me too.
What is
Daniel
it
likes
about-
to call me, man. I hate it.
I don't know. I can get better emotion and better reads out of hearing someone's voice than I can through text.
Yeah, mine's. I'm not. I'm not the most relational person. My wife would tell you the same thing. Like I'm just not. So if I don't have to get on a phone call with you, we'll just text.
Fair enough. Pool or the beach?
Oh, pool.
Pool.
Can't stand the beach.
Me neither. It's
Mountains.
because you have 6 kids and it's an event to go
It's
to
an
the beach.
event. It's an event.
It's not as fun as it seems with kids.
No. But listen, that's the lesser of 2 evils. But I would like. I don't mind the pool. Beach is terrible. You're just laying in dirt.
Yep.
People call it sand. It's just dirt. It's just dirt.
All right. Spider-Man or Batman?
Ooh, Batman.
Okay, good answer.
Because he's real. It
It's
doesn't know.
the wrong answer, but it'll work. Daniel, have you even seen the new movie? No, because you don't even go to the movies.
No, I don't. I do not. I just wait for it to come out.
It took COVID to knock this dude on his tail and put him in the house for like 10 days for him to actually watch movies.
I watched the whole cinematic universe, man.
There you go.
Wow. What we got? Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson?
Golly. Jamar Chase.
Is that based on who you think is better or who you would rather have on your side trying to throw passes to?
I look at just the. I think I remember hearing. I don't know who it was now. That Jamar would have been all SEC as a running back just as much as he was as a receiver. And so I think his ability to do multiple things as a receiver is really enticing. And listen, Josh, my brother's in Minnesota. He's a quarterback coach up there, so he gets a front row seat to Justin Jefferson every day, and he's just wowed by him. But I think the athletic body, the build, he's bigger in frame. I think I would go with Jamar Chase.
Jim, you'll know this. Didn't Justin Jefferson, he was asked this question or who was it better, and he said it was Jamar Chase?
He didn't say Jamar Chase. No, he said himself. No, they both got asked it, but
yeah,
you can't go wrong with either of them. But I thought whether it was at LSU or in the NFL, I thought Chase was better. And then to his point about him could have played running back, Chase's legs are not that of a wide receiver at all.
Yeah, right.
All right. Concert or sporting event?
Can I ask which sporting event? Like what sport?
It's this. So think of it in terms of like bucket list, like bucket list concert, bucket list sporting event.
Anywhere, anybody.
Love a good concert. But I like watching talented people do their thing. Like I love just watching talented people do whatever they're talented at. So, but I'd probably go concert. I've been to a lot of sporting events. I don't necessarily like to be in the stands at football games. I'd rather watch those at home. So I'd say concert.
Fair enough. And this is the last question. This has been a question.
I'm excited about this, Daniel, because we typically are asking college athletes. We're asking a mature adult here.
Yeah. So this has been around. It's been around for a while. So, would you rather spend 10 years in a coma or 5 years in prison?
Man, give me 10 years in a coma because you're not going to know it.
You know why he can say that, Daniel, though? Because his kids are the age they were. If they were little, he wouldn't feel the same way.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
I don't care. Kids' age has nothing to do with my answer to that question. I know at 42, Luke, I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. That's one thing that I can tell you distinctly. In prison, I would not be good at that.
Yeah.
But sleeping, I could be really good at that.
No question. Yeah.
Give me the 10 years and I'll wake up and I'll figure it out.
You'd be amazed. Doesn't matter what sport, how many of these athletes are like, give me prison. But then we had a top 10 Bellator fighter on who actually seems like he could survive in prison. He caught me and Daniel off guard. He said, I've been to prison and I'll never go back. And we're like, There's your answer right there.
There you go. Well, so I'm 5 minutes from a state prison, 10 minutes down the road here in Little East, Texas. So I kind of see some of that as well. Like, I don't know that I ever want to spend any amount of time in that place.
No doubt. Well, Daniel said he wouldn't even visit me in prison. That's how bad he doesn't want to.
Oh, man.
So I better never go. I don't even got a friend to show up and see me.
Yep.
But, man, we really appreciate your time. Really appreciate getting your story. Hoping that, people will be able to understand, from learning from your journey. And you talk about, it's funny you bring up Proverbs 16:9. If I had my Bible in here, my wife actually made my Bible marker that verse. And I actually was looking around for it to see if it was in here so I could show it to you. But, just learning to, trust in God and the steps that he has established for us. But really appreciate that. Is there anything else that you haven't brought up that you want to plug or promote before you get out of here?
Man, no, not at all. Just Jesus won, man. Pumping that because it's the ultimate victory.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you joining us. If there's anything we can do for you, reach out. But if you like hearing Luke's story or you just like hearing us average Joe's talk X's and O's, please like and share on Facebook, retweet us on X, listen, subscribe, share, follow us on Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff. We'll be back tomorrow night. We're going to be talking to UCLA star. Oh, Daniel, I messed that up. He actually transferred. Just watch that. We'll be back tomorrow night. But in the meantime, strong body, sharp minds, grit and grind all the time. We are out.